The New York Times obtained youth turnout percentages from 24 nations, with those that were from the ages of 18 to 29 years old that were registered voters. Out of 24 nations, the United States came in fifth to the last at only 46%. Let me repeat myself, at only 46% from 24 nations, with the top 5 nations being Sweden at 86%, Denmark 78%, the Netherlands 77%, South Korea 76%, and Samoa at 74%. You may ask yourself, why is this relevant to me since we're at the age to vote? But look back to the time when you were 18 years old. Did you vote? If yes, good on you. But if no, would it have helped if you were able to understand the voting process at a younger age, so that by the time you were 18 years old, you would be ready to vote in the general election? Proposition 18 would authorize a U.S. citizen who is 17 years old and will at least be 18 years old at the next general election to vote in any primary or special election that occurs before the next general election. Hi, I'm Kiana Pukahi, and I want you to vote yes on Proposition 18. From thorough research from multiple sources, I will speak on how Proposition 18 will allow for youth voices to be represented, how they will be prepared to vote in that general election, and why Proposition 18 is important and why you need to vote yes on it. Proposition 18 will allow for the younger generation's voices to be heard. The League of Women Voters of California states that young people are deeply unrepresented in voting. Proposition 18 will help with current low voter participation rates among youth by involving young people in determining California's future, since it is also their future as well. Allowing 17-year-olds to vote in primary and special elections will engage young voters to understand the issues going on around them. This will cause them to have a strong interest to participate, understand, and voice out their opinions. Donald Harrison, an editor of San Diego Jewish World, said that we need youth voices to be represented at the ballot box, allowing some 17-year-olds to vote in primary elections if and only if they will be 18 by the time of the general election is a simple way to amplify the voices of young voters throughout California and will lead to a more inclusive elective process for our state overall. Proposition 18 will allow for 17-year-olds to prepare themselves to vote. Sometimes, by the time someone is at 18 years old and are able to vote, they might not because they feel embarrassed or are confused because they don't know what's on the ballot. The solution is to get young people engaged, empowered, and excited about voting, and to make them more enthusiastic about participating in voting. Jane Laley, a professor of government at American University, states that we need to help first-time voters through steps like learning how to register, by what date, how a ballot works, what's on it, how to fill it out, where to go cast a vote, and what to do when you get there. Doing this at 17 years old can plant the seed that voting is normal and worthwhile. Young voters will be able to overcome the barrier that might obstruct their participation in voting. Voting at 17 years old will create the youth to make it a habit and more likely to vote again, which will contribute to the community they are in. Preparing youth, such as your younger siblings, younger family members, and others to know how important they are in society. The League of Women Voters mentioned that encouraging youth to vote during a time when they are established ties to their communities will set them on the path to future participation in our political process. Proposition 18 needs to be voted yes in California. Think about the 26th Amendment to the Constitution, where it lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. This was driven in part by the military draft being held during the Vietnam War. The slogan was, "If old enough to fight, then you should be old enough to vote." Currently, all male U.S. citizens, by law, must register for selective service 30 days prior before turning 18. If we were to use the same slogan today and say, if you are old enough to register for selective services prior turning 18, then you should be old enough to vote prior to being 18 as well. Currently, there are 18 states that have amended their voting age to allow 17-year-olds to vote in primary and special elections. Voting yes on Proposition 18 will encourage 17-year-olds to think about decisions that will definitely affect their future. Proposition 18 allows 17-year-olds who will be 18 at the time of the next general election to vote in special and primary elections. Being able to vote at 17 years old in the primary election will allow for youth voices to be represented, for them to prepare themselves about what to do, and for them to also know that it is not only our future, but theirs as well. Out of the 24 nations stated at the beginning, the United States was 5th to the last at only 46%. But we can change this with your vote on yes to Proposition 18. This will increase and encourage youth to vote. So go out and vote yes on Proposition 18, not just for you, but also for the future generation.